Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our campus for the 2024 Burton C. Einsbruck Holocaust Lectures. I want to first acknowledge Carrie Wildenthal-Fagelman, current chair of the Advisory Council for the Ackerman Center for Holocaust Studies, David B. Ackerman, the immediate past chair, and the rest of the Advisory Council. Their willingness to attend events, speak to our classes, and share their personal stories help this program continue to excel in the study of the Holocaust. The Ackerman Center and the Einsbruck Lectures are important to UT Dallas for several reasons. First, and most significantly, it is my understanding that we still are the only major public research university offering graduate-level courses in the study of the Holocaust. But it is not a new venture for us, hardly. That brings me to the second reason, longevity. The Holocaust Studies program has been a beacon of scholarship and enlightenment at UT Dallas since 1986. The program even predates my arrival at UT Dallas, and I have been here for more than 31 years. I have enjoyed watching the program grow and prosper as it continues to embrace the vision of its founder, Holocaust survivor and scholar, Dr. Zsuzsanna Oshvath. Just as the Ackerman Center is a key part of UT Dallas, the Einsbruck Lectures have long been a key feature of the Ackerman Center. The Einsbruck series had been in place for 9 years before its endowment was established in 2002. Finally, what makes this lecture series special is that it has attracted so many renowned scholars and prominent figures to share their Holocaust stories. We make this forum open to the public because we want students and general audiences alike to gain insight into the groundbreaking research in the field. Our speaker today, Father Patrick Desbois, certainly stands out for his tireless efforts to identify the sites of mass crimes committed by the Nazis and their collaborators. I'm sure you share my enthusiasm for learning from Father Desbois and hearing about his important work. So I would now like to welcome Dr. Romer back to the podium to tell you more about Father Desbois. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think my job is actually made a lot easier because there's a ready-made video, but I do remember just one thing that I wanted to point out, how long we've been trying to get you actually here. The two of us just remember that I was visiting Paris in January of 2020. Which was in lots of ways a good time to travel, but a terrible time to make plans that one would be able to execute. It was right on the edge, really, of the pandemic. And so while we at that time had already the good thought of inviting you, it took us a little longer, but here we are. But I think we're actually going to introduce you with a video.
Tout a commencé dans un petit village en Ukraine, Ravaruska. On savait qu'il y avait beaucoup de Juifs avant la Deuxième Guerre mondiale et on se demandait qu'est-ce qui s'est passé avec les Juifs puisqu'aujourd'hui il n'y a personne. En fait, ils ont été amenés au milieu de la forêt et ils ont été assassinés, fusillés.
Et puis on a découvert que les Juifs n'étaient pas enterrés, que personne ne savait où c'était, que personne ne voulait parler, que tout le monde disait il n'y a jamais eu de fusillade.
Et c'est comme ça que nous avons commencé à enquêter pour trouver les preuves de ces assassinats des Juifs et des Tziganes.
Et depuis 16 ans, eh bien, on frappe à la porte et on demande « Est-ce que vous étiez là, madame ?» Et est-ce que vous étiez là, monsieur? Et si la personne répond oui, eh bien, on essaie de sauver la mémoire de l'Europe.
Nous avons collecté plus de 7000 témoignages.
Je dirais que c'est un challenge difficile parce qu'il a fallu admettre que finalement les voisins des Juifs ou des Tziganes sont contents parce qu'ils auront la maison, parce qu'ils auront les filles, parce qu'ils auront l'argent, les bijoux, les chaussures.
Il y a toujours des angles morts hein, dans les génocides, dans les crimes de masse, dans les crimes en général. Et nous, notre mission, c'est aussi d'aller dans ces angles morts-là.
C'est ça qui nous a amenés dans les petits villages des peuples quichés au Guatemala. Selon les historiens, il y a eu entre 250 000 et 500 000 victimes.
Là encore, on a interviewé des femmes, des hommes qui ont survécu. Je me souviens de cette femme qui était enceinte de 8 mois, qui a été violée alors que l'on tuait son mari et ses autres enfants. Et donc ça nous a ouvert à nouveau la zone grise des massacres de masse dont personne ne parle, que tout le monde oublie, parce que c'est pas à la mode, parce que ça n'attire pas les médias. Et puis est arrivé le génocide des Yazidis par Daesh. Lorsque moi-même j'ai vu les images à la télévision, ça m'a paru clair qu'il fallait aller en Irak.
D'organisation de recherche, d'organisation de recueil de preuves et d'enseignements, on a développé une expertise d'aide aux survivants.
Et c'est ça qui nous permet aujourd'hui de pouvoir agir quand il se passe quelque chose dans le monde.
Certains sont mobilisés par le réchauffement climatique et c'est très important. Certains par l'écologie et c'est très important. Mais tous les jours aussi, on tue, on égorge, on met des bombes. Une fois c'est à Kaboul, alors bon, Kaboul c'est loin. Une fois c'est au Nigeria, oh ben on ne sait pas trop où c'est. Et puis tout d'un coup, c'est pas loin de Paris. Tout d'un coup, c'est à Nice. Tout d'un coup, c'est à Orlando. Alors là, on est touché. On est touché parce que c'est les voisins. Il faut que chacun prenne ses responsabilités. Yahad, c'est aussi pour connecter d'autres personnes qui dorment mal lorsque l'on tue quelqu'un très loin. Si on continue à bien dormir, on va se réveiller dans un cauchemar.
Please join me now to welcome to the stage Father Desbois.
Thank you first to the university. I would thank the provost because I know it's the most complicated job in the university. I want also to thank Dr. Römer for his energy. And as you see, since now more than 20 years, with my organization, which is called Yahad in Unum, we go from village to village in the country who have been occupied by the German in post-Soviet Union. First, why do we call it Yahad in Unum? Yahad means together in Hebrew, and in Unum, in one, in Latin. It's a silly name because when I meet Jews, they ask me what is in Unum. When I meet Catholic, they ask me what is Yahad. And when I meet the others, they understand nothing. But here we are. And we work now with a team in Paris, a team in Brussels, a team in Guatemala, because we opened the first Holocaust museum in Central America, a team in Iraq, because we are on the ground in Iraq against ISIS, and a team in Ukraine, because we investigate also about the crimes committed by the Russians. I know most of you know what is Holocaust. You are family of survivors, or you are academic, or you are interested. So I will try to bring you the human results of 20 years of investigation. First, if we can show the map of our research, here is the map. So you see all the points that you see on the map, we have been there. Is nearly 2,800 sites of extermination. It begins in West, because it's not finished. It begins in Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, and it finishes in Russia, near Moscow, near Baku, near Georgia. More than 2 million Jews have been shot one by one during 3 years by units who are going from village to village, killing the last baby, the last mummy. We never found the village with a survivor. The only survivor are the people who were not in the village that day because they were in the forest, or they were hidden, or they were evacuated east. So that was the first thing we had to confront. You know, when people think Holocaust, they think Auschwitz. They think camp, they think train, they think gas chamber, barbed wires, and that's true. But in these villages and cities, no barbed wires, no train, only guns, carabine shooters, diggers of mass graves. All this genocide has been handmade. So that it must ask us to breathe, to recognize that 2 million people have been killed, each one by somebody, and most of the time nobody remembers them. So it means when you make a genocide handmade by people, people will forget it. When you kill people and you put them in mass grave, people forget it. So it's the first constatation we have been confronted, because in the planet today, all the genocide, all the mass crimes are done handmade. Nobody rebuilt Auschwitz. I will never forget one of my friends in Poland. He was a specialist of Auschwitz. His name was Stefan Vulkanovich. He told me, it was Soviet time, a long time ago. He told me, Patrick, Hitler made a mistake. And I asked, which mistake? He told me he built Auschwitz. And I asked him, why is it a mistake? He told me, because in Auschwitz, Jews are coming back. When they kill them in forest, they never came back. And that's true, because in these thousands of locations, I can tell you, nobody nearly came back. I will never forget one guy in Ukraine. He was in a small village. He told me, you know, Father, I have 1,543 Jews in my garden, and nobody came back. You are the first one since 42. And that's the general case. That's the general case. Don't think there is a monument. In many places, there is absolutely nothing. Perhaps we can pinpoint of one village. I will pinpoint the village where my grandpa has been deported. You can access that. All that is online. For each village, you have testimonies, localization. So that village is the village where my grandpa has been deported. It's in Ukraine. So always we use archive pictures. The Germans were very proud. They had beautiful Leica in their pocket. So they took a lot of pictures of souvenirs. And they sent the picture to their wives and to their love. It's why we have many pictures. So you see, Ravaruska, the nickname of Ravaruska was Rava the Jew, because it was 75% Jew, in fact. It was a border city, and for the Germans it was a beautiful day, because they entered in Soviet Union. Can go on in the pictures. So, military souvenir, you have everything. Don't forget, this genocide was public. The German made advertising. It's why for me it's weird, because it's not known and it was public. All German people knew it because the family received the pictures. Next one. Next one. Next one, that's the camp of my grandpa. This one. That's a picture of the ghetto. Very strange picture. End of the ghetto of Ravaruska. In Ravaruska, they shot 18,000 people. always we use these pictures as material of investigation. First remark, you see there are only women. So you can ask, where are the men? Are they already killed? Very few children. No barbed wires. It's an open ghetto. An open ghetto, it's a ghetto you don't close, and if one person escapes, you kill 10 persons. So people are watching each other. Next one. Picture of victims. The Jews of Rabaruska were very different. Some were Zionists, were some anti-Zionists, some were religious, non-religious, communist, anti-communist. It was a very complicated community. Let's go to the one after. I always show this picture to my students in Georgetown because they imagine it's all time. They imagine everybody was different from them. And I see this girl, she could be a student in Georgetown or in Dallas. So the first thing was for us to be confronted to the face of the victims, to the face of the killers, and to the face of the neighbors. So let's watch one neighbor. The woman would be the best, not him. Not him, because he speaks very quickly. So this lady was one of my first witnesses. She was a child during the war, and she saw many, many shootings because it was on the way to go to school. So the first thing I would like you to think, nobody changed his life during Holocaust. People went to school, people were keeping a cow, were with the cow, people were digging to put potatoes, they were digging to put potatoes. I never met somebody stopping working. So it's the first thing, it's difficult to admit the neighbors don't care. Sometimes we think all the neighbors hated the Jews. Sometimes we think the neighbors love the Jews, but majority of them were making their daily life. So it was the biggest difficulty for us to understand where you were not Jew, you were not gypsy, you were not gay, you were not communist, so where was the problem? So it was daily life. So let's listen to her. She's a nice lady. She was not at all anti-Semite. She's a nice lady, and she accepted to be a witness in front of a group of Americans who came in the village. Let's go. All that is online. 32, so she was 10 years old.
В синагогу ту у нас була церква єврейська, вони ще там ходили молити, то в той день то їх всіх німці обступили і вигнали звідти, і так вели їх на розстріл, так само, з тієї синагоги, де вони там були. О, так само.
А ви саме скільки раз ви бачили розстріли?
Та почти кожен раз, бо там ми діти зі школи виходили, йшли, то бачили, знаєте.
So she says, I saw that every time I went to school. It means the school didn't close the day of the shooting. So imagine the teachers who go to school waiting for the children, who walk near the mass grave with the Jews waiting to be killed, and the school is going on. Nothing was closed. Administration was not closed. The farms were not closed. Everybody was on his daily life. So it's the first thing that we have to think. Me, when I began, I was thinking that if somebody saw the shooting of Jews, she was very perturbed, psychotic, something. No. We met thousands and thousands of people who were in an absolutely normal life, with no more problem than you and me, because it was not their genocide. It was the genocide of the Jews. So that's a big question for us, because these people have a big teaching about Holocaust. They saw it, and they still don't care. Go on.
Дивились ми, то ведуть з того дому, то з того дому ведуть, на розстріл їх вели, просили ще бідні, страшне просили. Спасайте нас, спасайте нас. Ну, як хтось підійшов до єврея, щось хотів помочи, чи щось йому дати, чи їсти, чи що. Зараз німець забирав і стріляв ту людину, то ніхто не йшов, бо боялись люди. Ну.
Німці ходили за євреями шукати їх. І до кожного будинку заходили, виводили з будинку.
Так.
І скільки німців було? Скільки заходило в будинок?
5, 6, отак во. 5, 6. І стояли зараз, коло будинку стояли багато. Було з 10 чоловік озброєні, все. Обкружували зараз ту місцевість, де вони заходили шукати. Ну.
Коли німці приходять в дім за євреями, то вони їх виводять і зразу йдуть до ями, чи їх багато, їх збирають, а потім ведуть?
Як один-два, то ні, тримають їх, окружили і пільнують, а решту йдуть, шукають знов і виведуть там 10 чоловік чи скільки, туди ведуть їх, туди на розстріл. А потім вже в останній час то по одному вели. Як взяли, значить, зараз 3 німці, 4 і ведуть на розстріл його. А та яма велика, там дуже було, там народу море.
А от ввечері, вже як постріляли євреї, то вони закривали ту яму, чи...
Ні, та де? Не закривали, бо вони вдень знов ходили, знов. То так було десь цілий місяць. В ту яму звозили, збирали.
So the shooting stayed 1 month. Imagine a young girl, she was 10 years old, she was Christian, some were Catholic, some were Orthodox, because it's Western Ukraine. She was living just near the border of Poland. She went to school. Every day she saw the killing of the neighbors. She never spoke since 42. It was the first time she spoke. All the neighbors never spoke. So I would like to make you think it was terrible to be a neighbor. Because finally you were present. Sometimes you were active because Germans wanted the neighbors to help to dig the grave, to help to fulfill the grave, to help clean the belonging of the Jews, to help sell the belonging of the Jews, to help bring ashes on the blood, was pouring from the mass grave, etc. And they had to continue their life. So the first question I would raise, you know, we would like to say they were all anti-Semite. And it will be finished. We have a good answer, it's finished. This girl, she was not specially anti-Semite. So what makes the neighbor not react the day of a genocide concerning the neighbors? What blocks the mind? For me, after 22 years of investigation, what I realized, Ravaruska was nearly a Jewish city. In 1944, it was Judenfrei, no more Jewish city. So the neighbors could sleep in their bed, eat with their fork, sleep in their room, live in their house, have their cows, have everything. So I think one engine of the neighborhood is to say it's very sad, but tomorrow we will be in their home. Tomorrow we will have everything. And I think in a genocide and in Holocaust, never underestimate that. Don't forget, the Holocaust was not a non-profit. The SS were not a non-profit. They took majority of the belonging. They took the money, they took the gold, they took everything, brought it back or sent to their family. But the neighbors, and I think in most of the places, we don't investigate about that. You know, it's easier to say that they kill a Jew than to say they took the belongings. Let's finish this witness.
Возили їх, а потім вже загорнули бульдозером, загорнули ту яму і все.
Як коли стріляли євреїв, їх перед тим роздягали? Казали їм роздягатися чи ні?
Ні, так в одежі. В одежі, і що коло них було, що мали, чи в сумках, чи що так туди кидали, що то не роздягали.
Коли вели євреїв туди, до ями, ті німці, то вони самі ті, що вели, ті стріляли, чи там були стрільці якісь?
Ні, ті самі стріляли.
Ті самі, що
вели.
проводили?
Так. Ті самі стріляли, так. А то дайте спокій, то було. То і наші попадали, як хтось дав кусок хліба, а вздріли, німаки десь побачив, і нашого забрали разом застрілили. Так. Не мав права ніхто підійти.
А маленьких таких дітей, таких
Теж діточок
таких
стріляли.
младенців таких,
З ними
немовлят.
були діти,
Немовлят
вели за
теж
руку
стріляли.
дітей. Такі. Що то стріляв? Що?
Ні, а таких немовлят зовсім.
То стріляли, я знаю, як вони десь тою машингвера як потягнув, то вбив все, знаєте, і діти, і все. Та то було.
Скажіть, от їх коли стріляли, то вони всі падали в яму, чи підходили ще німці їх штовхали туди, чи як то було?
Та так стало, яма. Так до ями їх поставили близько, то ззаді стріляли, та й вони летіли. Так.
Не було таких, що тут лишалися?
Ну, то там, видно, підкидали вони, я того вже так не виділа, я один раз, ми пішли ще подивили, як вони стріляють, знаєте, дітям інтересно було то подивитися. То ми ходили, дивилися, то от так, як я вам кажу, яма велика була, дуже велика яма була, така яма, і та повна яма була їх.
So she says, and it's not translated, this incredible phrase, you know, we were children, it was interesting for us, the children. And I heard that hundreds of times. So when you have a genocide, when you are a child, when you know you will not be a victim, you will go. I work in 10 countries, it was the same reaction. So I would say the job of my organization was to reintegrate Holocaust in the daily life. People imagine Holocaust was in a separate part, was far away. At the beginning, I was thinking all the Jews were killed in forest. And suddenly, I remember in Crimea, and I was investigating about the shooting of 11,000 Jews, and suddenly I found the witness. He was keeping his animals, and he was there. And I turned around, there was not one tree. So I told him, there were trees at the day? He told me, no. I understood that these shootings were in place where you could see from far, because the Germans were afraid to be attacked. So the daily life was not changed. So it's difficult for us because as we began to interview also around the camps to know if it was the same around the camp. It was the same. It was the same. I remember I interviewed a witness from Auschwitz, the city from Auschwitz, and he spoke to me during 2 hours. His big problem was to have good bread, good cookies, to make snowball, to play football, etc. And I asked him, you were not afraid to be near the camp of Auschwitz during 2 years with the gas chamber? He told me, oh father, we avoided the gates of the camps in case they made a mistake. So that was the only reaction. The only reaction of the human being during the genocide is to be safe. A minority will cooperate, a minority will help, and the majority will look for cookies. So it's a big question for us today for 2 reasons. First, not everybody was sad, as I told you, because they will get the belongings. And you don't imagine, when it was the killing of the Jews of Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, 33,000 Jews, beautiful apartments, 5-story buildings. You will not see one line about what happened to the buildings. Who got the apartments? Nobody. It disappeared. I say that because anti-Semitism is coming back, as you know, in different ways. I'm not specialized about anti-Semitism in America, but we are pretty specialized about anti-Semitism in France. It comes on three doors, actually, in France. Ultra-right side, classic way. Jews are foreigners, but they are not the worst, actually, in France. Ultra-left side, Jews are the capitalists who are handling the planet, etc., etc. And Islamist side, free side. But for the free side, what is the way anti-Semitism is growing is because it's a kind of jealousy. It's a kind to say they handle everything and we don't handle it, and we need to get it back. So one side say they are foreigners, they took the power. One side said they took Palestine, we must get it back. And I can tell you, I know many people who are very in favor of that and have never been to Palestine one time. And the others, left side, they are capitalists. They are bringing the poor and making poverty in the country. And we must be free of them. So in the three doors of anti-Semitism coming back is jealousy. To say they are handling too much something that we need to get back. And sometimes they see America like that. America is the end of the Jews. It's why there is a problem. And you will not believe it. One day I saw a manifestation against the Jews in Poland and in Ukraine with the same slogan, Putin is a puppet of the Jew. It's the Jews who are handling, at the end they are handling everything. I say that because we must be careful with this anti-Semitism. We must be careful because there is a quick line between anti-Semitism and crime. Soon or late. Soon or late. Because one day you say, why we don't get it back? Why we don't get back Palestine? Why we don't get back the newspaper from France, the media, the money? Why we don't get back America? And so, I think more we studied Holocaust in Eastern Europe, more we understood that anti-Semitism is a very dangerous disease, because at the beginning it seems innocent, only speeches, freedom of speech, and at the end, you have the crimes. Don't forget that in France, since 15 years, we have more than 15 Jews who have been killed by somebody for being Jew. The last lady who has been killed is Mrs. Knoll. She was a survivor from Holocaust, and she has been burnt alive by her neighbor, who until now denies it was anti-Semite. So, it's why I think it's important to teach Holocaust in a new way. On my side, I'm professor in Georgetown since 9 years, and we are connected to many universities in America, but also in Europe. What I see is that, of course, we teach to new generation. I began teaching 9 years ago here, and at least they knew something about Holocaust. I don't know your students, but me, they know nothing when they begin. They know Hitler's name and Auschwitz. But after that, it's finished. And I think for them, it's no more the story of grandpa. They are 18 years, 20 years old, 21. It's story of grandpa. So it's far, far away. So they don't care the election of Hitler. They don't care Hitler, Goebbels, and all that. It's too much. And they say, many things happened since that, you know, father. So we decided to teach mainly the crimes as it happened. How the Germans arrived in time in a village, how they enter in a village, and how they leave the village in night, and what happens in the go-between. And so, I see that the students are very interested by a forensic approach. You know, in my generation, we hated forensic. We never saw a corpse in TV. Now with cold case, with criminal minds, with X-Files. I don't know if you see it, but at the end you see a corpse on a table, and in France many students want to be medical legal doctor, and before nobody wanted to do that. And so I say that because if you approach the crimes committed by the German, it changed completely. I will tell you what we found, because there was a methodology to kill people. So the first thing, the Germans were choosing the day before the killers. Because one day you could be killer, one day you could be driver. So suddenly the German learn, you will be shooter tomorrow. Generally, the German, they drink in the night. They have to wake up at 4 a.m. and they have to drive to the village in a column not to be attacked. In their cart, only gun, machine gun, and alcohol, nothing. But before they connected a farmer or a group to dig the mass grave. They sent an architect to the village, will ask how many Jews are to be killed, and he will calculate the volume of the mass grave according to the number of people we want to kill. When this guy is ready, he will phone to the unit and say, we are ready. So they drive in the night, and they will surrender the village early in the morning. In the morning, the Jewish village or the Jewish quarter is surrounded by machine gun, so nobody can escape. So they make an announce, deportation to Palestine, or deportation to work, but mainly to Palestine. Don't forget, it was a Stalin regime. So deportation was something not good, but you could survive. Majority of the Jews tried to believe it. So they asked them to take coats, heavy coats, because it's a long way to take all their money, all their jewels in their pockets, etc. And they have to make a line in the main street, 5 per 5. Why 5 per 5? Because somebody is they count them. Because they need to know how many Jews they killed, because Himmler in Berlin is very upset and wants it to be quick. Some Jews are hidden in their house, in an attic, somewhere. So the Germans enter with local people to say, hey, it missed children in your family, and they are looking for it. That's terrible, because most of the time they kill them directly. I remember a baby was hidden under a bed. He was 1 year and a half. And the German arrived, he saw it, and he couldn't grab it. And finally, he found a pistol, he killed the baby, and he went. Another case, a Jewish family didn't want to go out. They stayed in the farm. They refused to go out. So the German was very upset. He took one baby, he smashed the head of the baby on the door, and all the family went outside. And he said proudly, the German said, I found now the methodology to make them go. So at the end, you have a long line of Jews and dead Jews on cart. They wait for an official to come and would say, direction Palestine. You know, I found the lady, she was an Ukrainian, and she saw people in the line, and she began to cry because she saw her neighbors. And the Jewish woman saw her and said, don't cry, we go to Palestine. And the lady said, no, you don't go to Palestine, because I saw the mass grave behind the church this morning. And the German told her, if you speak again with the Jews, you will be killed. So they begin to walk. You know, the trick was to dig the mass grave in the direction of the train station, so that they think they will take the train. They walk, and suddenly no more train station. Links, rechts, right, left. At that moment, the Jews understand they will be killed. At that moment, the girls take their jewels and throw them everywhere. And us, with metallic detector, very frequently we find wedding rings, medallion, Magen David. It's very moving. One day we found 20 wedding rings at this place, and I was thinking in my mind, finally we found you. And after we make them sit down on the ground and take out their coats, because the coats is like a bank. All the money is inside, and the German wants the money. And they isolate them 5 per 5 or 10 per 10. Why? Because there are 5 shooters or 10 shooters. And they establish this law, 1 bullet, 1 Jew, 1 Jew, 1 bullet. It was a request from army to make economy of ammunition. Directly, if somebody is not quick enough, they have the right to push him. So the babies, the older people are not killed they are pushed and buried alive. And in every village, people said it took 3 days the mass grave to move. The same day we will bury them. The same day they will take all the belonging and during the night look for the money, the jewels and everything to take it back to the German area. And after we will sell the coats in the village. And that's the problem. Because we will sell all the coats by auction. Here is a jacket, here is a pant, here is a coat. And the people told me in every village, after 3 days, we were all dressed in Jews. And after, they will empty the houses and sell also the belonging of the Jews. So after normally 3 weeks in one village, there is no more Jew, no more belonging, no more dresses, no more anything. It was a full extermination war, and it worked. We never saw a village where it has been stopped by the partisan or the resistance. Always it finished in time, begin in time. Another thing is that the Germans wanted to finish early. At 5 p.m. always they stop, because they want to drive back. They never sleep in the village. And they wash themselves, and at noon they eat. So we interview three girls who were cooking for the German. I say, beautiful table just near the mass grave. And the German went 2 by 2 to shoot and came back and put their machine gun in the tree. And I say, how could they eat? And she laughed. She said, they didn't care. They didn't care. So that's the big problem that we find in the Holocaust and that we found in other genocide, because we found the same thing in Guatemala when we worked about the quick killing of the civilian during the Conflicto Armado. And we found the same thing in Iraq when they killed Christians and they killed the Yazidi or they put them in slavery. All that is done in the middle of the normal life. Because we think there is a secret area around the genocide. Absolutely not. Because the Germans needed people. They needed employees to dig. They needed people to carry the Jews. They needed people to bring back the belongings. They didn't do a dirty job themselves. But the Islamists in Iraq did the same. They made a deal with the neighbors, with the belonging. They were selling the girls with the neighbors as sex slaves. In Guatemala, we found the same. They came with people from the country to kill the country. So, no genocide without the neighbors. And no neighbor is easy. No neighbor is bad, no neighbor is good, we are neighbors. But I think it's the most complicated situation, and in this map you will have the possibility to listen to minimum 3,000 neighbors. Another thing that I would like you to share with you is that public opinion very quickly doesn't care. Me, I met many survivors from Holocaust, and they told me when we came back, nobody was interested. We couldn't speak. It was liberation. American came, everybody was happy. The war was finished. We came back with bad news. Nobody wanted to listen to them. They could speak only when Eichmann was judged in the year 70, etc. You know, we work in Guatemala. In Guatemala, the killings finished in 96. Nobody cares. Nobody speaks about it. It's far away. 500,000 people. 500,000 people. What is it? So for me, the fact that humanity thinks about it and forget it as quickly as we can is also a big problem. We worked in Iraq. It was a complete war. And between the coalition, American, French were bombing to put ISIS out, etc. We spoke about the Yazidi. They were in the news. Nadia Murad got a Nobel Prize. She's a survivor. She's now in America, thanks God. But one day, the Prime Minister of Iraq came in Mosul and said, now it's a peace. The same day, all the TV went out. All the journalists went out. It was finished. We are working now in Iraq with no support, difficult to raise money to help the victims. The camps of IDP are full of girls who have been sex slaves, boys who have been taken also as terrorists and they are not even Muslim. Who cares? Where did they go, the media? It was Ukraine. So the same TV, the same journalists, good morning, we are in Kiev, and they went on the front. We worked now there to investigate about the crime of the Russian, and it was also full of journalists and media. And suddenly, Israel and Gaza. So finish Ukraine, open Gaza. So I would say, when we are professor, when we are educator, we have to try to say our students, will you follow only the wind? Will you follow only your small telephone? Will you only follow the propaganda from one country or another? Will you care only in the news? Or you will care because people are killed like animals in a place or another? So it's really complicated because our students, they grow, they have to find a job, they have to find a place, they have to find also to make a love story and a future. But I always say we must cultivate the minority. The minority will stand up because, as you know, in the planet, we miss leaders and we will miss young leaders. We must work that leaders wake up, stand up, know what happens, don't sleep well. Don't sleep well because of Holocaust. Don't sleep well because of the genocide of Armenians. Don't sleep well because of Guatemala, of Iraq, of Russia, until the next one. You are a country of freedom, like my country. We must enjoy freedom, but we must not dream. Today, this night, I'm sure that people will be killed in Ukraine. I'm sure. I'm sure that will be killed also between Gaza and Israel. Today, hostage from the Jewish city near Gaza are still there. They are no more in the news, not a lot. So we must cultivate people and find people who don't sleep well, are ready to wake up, to sacrifice a part of their life. Otherwise, it's like a highway for the bad guys. The terrorists know that we don't speak about them. 9/11 is far away already. For my students, they are young. It's far away already. They know it was, but far away. So imagine. In France, we have a permanent threat of terrorism. It's every day nearly. 2 days ago, somebody took a knife and killed a free person in the train station of Gare de Lyon, and it's nearly every 2 days. 2 lines in the news. So I will call a few. You are educator. You are family of survivor. You are American. You will be confronted to election, and by luck, I am not American, and I have enough with Macron. Always people ask me if I am pro-Trump or Biden. I say, me, I vote in France. And it's enough complicated. But out of elections are not the key which change the population. Out of election, we have to cultivate young generation that a minority among them will not sleep well. If you study Holocaust, it's to heal the planet. If you study Holocaust, it's to see that antisemitism is devastating the conscience. If you study Holocaust, you must know the actual genocide was happening and wake up people. Today, with small money, with NGO, like our NGO, like our NGO, you can support and change the planet. It's very difficult and very non-difficult and much more easy. But I will finish with this text in the Bible of Cain and Abel. You know that in the Bible, the first brother is killing the first brother. And me, I've always been surprised about that. Why this story in the beginning of the Bible? It's very sad, you know. And now I think that this story, if it was not in the beginning, nobody would read it. And you know, Cain is jealous about Abel because Abel is blessed by God. Oh, new story, new story. And I hope it's not my phone. No, it's not mine. You know, the worst day, it was, I will make a joke at the end, I was present at the Mass of the Pope in north of France, and at the moment of the Pope raised the bread, my phone was ringing. I wanted to die. I never knew who was phoning to me. So, Cain is killing his brother because he has been blessed by God. You know, sometimes the Jews are in the place of evil. The blessing seems to be a benediction that nobody accepts. And you know, the question of God, for me it's a strange question. The first question he raised in the Bible is, he asked to Cain, where is your brother? Not what happened, no, who killed him, where? And you know, we found where? Here. We found where in Guatemala, we found where in Iraq, we found where in Ukraine, and we found that the neighbors were present. As I say, the only thing was missing in the Bible is that in fact there was a witness. There is no crime without a witness. There is no genocide without witness. There is no genocide without neighbors, and these neighbors know the truth and carry the truth. And you know, at the end, Cain was upset. He said, am I the guardian of my brother? What I am to do with that? And so God tell him, don't you hear that the blood of evil is climbing from earth until heaven? And you know, the commentary of Rashi about the Bible, he said it was not the blood, but the bloods, meaning all the killing will be up after. And so, you know, we will not be able to build a modern planet, asking 2 million Jews who have not been burnt, who are buried, to ask them to keep silence. We will not be modern country if we ask 500,000 persons from Guatemala in mass grave, in silence. We'll never be able to build a modern planet asking the Ukrainians who are killed now to keep silence. So either we hear that, either we sleep well, waiting for a nightmare. Thank you.